Have you ever felt like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, dragging you down and making every step forward seem impossible? It's not just about the physical burdens we carry, but those emotional and mental loads that silently eat away at our peace. We often don't realize how much these invisible fardos are holding us back. From perfectionism to the constant search for validation, we carry unnecessary expectations that cloud our judgment, dull our happiness, and stifle our growth. But here's a bold truth. You don't need to announce to the world every time you let go of a burden. The most powerful transformations happen in silence. Imagine freeing yourself from these weights, quietly evolving, growing, and becoming lighter without needing anyone's approval or validation. The beauty of it? The results speak for themselves. This video is your invitation to silently release these 11 fardos that have been weighing you down, so you can grow and evolve with a sense of peace and freedom. Curious to know how? Have you ever noticed how certain burdens, even in silence, weigh so heavily that they affect your inner peace? Stoicism, an ancient and powerful philosophy, teaches how to deal with these invisible loads. The central idea is simple. It's not what happens to you that matters, but how you respond to it. And you know what's even more incredible? The practice of Stoicism helps you grow by facing life's challenges calmly, without needing to shout it out to the world. Imagine being able to evolve and leave behind those burdens we carry in silence. Now, when I talk about burdens, I don't just mean everyday responsibilities, but also those internal issues that hold us back. Thoughts about what others think of us, insecurities that limit us, fears that paralyze us. Stoicism teaches you how to handle all of that without carrying more weight than you really need to. It's an invitation to evolve without carrying unrealistic expectations. After all, who said you need to explain your choices to everyone? This brings us to the first lesson. Often, when someone hurts us, our immediate reaction is to explain, justify, or even confront. But what if real strength lies in moving forward without exhausting yourself over those who hurt you? This paves the way for the next step. One of the heaviest burdens we carry is the need to explain ourselves, especially to those who have caused us pain. It's almost instinctual. When someone wrongs us, we feel compelled to justify our feelings, actions, or even our existence. But here's a powerful truth. You don't owe anyone an explanation, especially not those who hurt you. The more you try to explain yourself, the more you let them control your peace. True strength lies in moving forward, evolving from the pain, and not looking back for validation from those who don't deserve it. Think about it. Why waste your energy trying to get someone who wronged you to see your side? It's like trying to explain a sunset to someone who refuses to look up. Instead, focus on your own growth. Let go of that unnecessary weight, that constant need for approval from those who don't value you. Your peace is worth far more than their understanding. This simple shift in mindset can free you from carrying emotional baggage that only drags you down. So, the next time you feel tempted to explain yourself to someone who doesn't deserve it, take a deep breath. Remember, you're not here to justify your worth to anyone. Focus on the next step of your journey, because that's where your growth begins. We live in a world where setting goals is seen as the ultimate path to success. But here's the catch. Not all goals are worth chasing. Sometimes, we pursue things that are not aligned with our true values or purpose, simply because society or others expect us to. The weight of these unnecessary goals can drag you down, making you feel like you're running a race you never signed up for. And what's worse, they often distract you from the goals that really matter, those that reflect who you truly are. Take a moment and think about the goals you're currently striving for. Are they genuinely yours, or have they been influenced by the expectations of others? Maybe it's that high-paying job that seems impressive but doesn't fulfill you, or that lifestyle that looks perfect on social media but feels empty. Chasing these goals can be exhausting because they don't come from a place of personal meaning. You evolve when you stop pursuing what doesn't resonate with your core. Instead of filling your plate with every possible ambition, focus on what truly aligns with your values. For example, if you value growth and personal fulfillment, Maybe that means pursuing education or learning a new skill rather than a superficial achievement. You'll find that when your goals are meaningful, they feel lighter, like they're pulling you forward instead of weighing you down. And remember, it's okay to let go of goals that don't serve you anymore. People often believe that once a goal is set, they must see it through to the end. But here's the reality. It's perfectly fine to reevaluate and release goals that no longer serve your evolution. In fact, letting go of these goals can free up mental and emotional space for the things that truly matter. Sometimes, progress looks like stepping away from something that no longer aligns with your path. So, how do you know which goals to release? A good starting point is to ask yourself, does this goal excite me? Does it contribute to my growth? Or is it just something I feel pressured to achieve? If the answer is no, it might be time to let it go. And remember, this isn't about giving up. It's about focusing your energy on the things that will help you grow and evolve into the person you're meant to become. By trimming away these unnecessary goals, you not only lighten your load, but also make room for goals that truly matter. And with less weight on your shoulders, you'll find that your journey becomes more fulfilling and aligned with your purpose. Letting go isn't a sign of failure. It's a step toward growth, a way to evolve with less burden and more clarity. When a relationship ends, there's a natural urge to share what happened, to vent, to explain every detail to friends or even on social media. But there's a quiet power in holding back, in keeping certain things to yourself. Oversharing, especially right after a breakup, can feel like a way to find relief, but in reality, it often adds to the emotional burden. Sharing too much can lead to unnecessary judgment, misunderstanding, and even regret. Protecting your peace means being selective with what you share and who you share it with. Think of it this way. The more you talk about the pain, the more you relive it. Each retelling can reignite feelings of hurt, frustration, or anger. And let's be honest, not everyone who listens has your best interests at heart. Some people thrive on drama or gossip, and the more you share, the more they feed on your emotions. In contrast, keeping certain details private allows you to process things on your own terms, without external interference. In moments of vulnerability, it's tempting to seek validation from others by sharing intimate details. But true healing often comes from within, not from the opinions of others. Sure, a close friend or therapist can provide support, but airing every detail to anyone who will listen can slow down your growth. Instead of oversharing, focus on introspection. What can you learn from this experience? How can you grow from it without needing external validation? This is where real evolution happens. There's also a practical side to consider. The more details you share, the more others feel entitled to weigh in on your situation. You might start getting unsolicited advice, opinions you didn't ask for, or worse, judgment. And when too many voices get involved, it can cloud your judgment, making it harder to figure out what you truly want or need. Guarding your personal experiences allows you to keep control of your narrative, rather than letting others define it for you. But what about the need to talk it out? Of course, it's important to process your emotions, but there's a difference between thoughtful sharing and emotional oversharing. Choose a few trusted individuals who you know will listen without judgment and support your healing. A good friend or therapist can help you see things more clearly without amplifying the drama. This way, you still get the support you need without feeling the weight of public opinion. On social media, the temptation to overshare is even greater. After a breakup, it might feel cathartic to post cryptic messages or share emotional statuses. But remember that once something is online, it's hard to take back. You could end up regretting those posts, or worse, you could unintentionally harm your reputation. Keeping the details of your breakup off social media can save you from future embarrassment or misunderstandings. Another benefit of keeping things private is that it allows you to heal in peace. When you're not constantly discussing the breakup, you give yourself the mental and emotional space to move on. Healing is a personal journey, and the less noise you have around you, the clearer your path forward will be. Imagine how much lighter you'll feel when you no longer feel the need to explain every little detail of your relationship's end. So, how do you resist the urge to overshare? Start by setting boundaries for yourself. Before sharing anything, ask yourself, will this help me heal, or am I just seeking validation? If it's the latter, take a step back. Journaling can be a great way to express your feelings without needing an audience. Writing down your thoughts allows you to process your emotions privately and can be just as therapeutic as talking to someone. Ultimately, the less you share, the more control you have over your story. Protect your peace by being selective with your words and your audience. Oversharing may feel like a release in the moment, but in the long run, it often adds unnecessary weight to your emotional load. Let go of that need to explain everything, and instead focus on your own growth and healing. And as you evolve through this process, you'll find that your peace becomes more valuable than any temporary relief that oversharing might bring. The silence that comes from keeping things private can be your greatest ally in moving forward. Now, let's look at how to handle difficult moments when emotions run high. Anger is one of those emotions that can take over before we even realize what's happening. In heated moments, the natural reaction is often to raise our voice, thinking that the louder we are, the more we'll be heard. But here's the irony. Shouting rarely helps us communicate better. In fact, it often makes things worse. The person on the receiving end either shuts down or becomes defensive, and suddenly, the conversation turns into a shouting match where neither side really listens. Keeping calm is not a sign of weakness. It's actually a show of strength and self-control. When you channel your frustration into calm, measured words, you not only maintain control over the situation but also over yourself. Think of it like this. Raising your voice is like adding fuel to a fire that's already burning. Instead, what if you could douse that fire with calm reasoning? It doesn't mean bottling up your emotions, but rather expressing them in a way that invites resolution, not more conflict. This shift in approach can turn an argument into a meaningful conversation. It's easy to let anger take the wheel, especially when you feel disrespected or misunderstood. But the real challenge and growth comes from learning to communicate your frustrations without letting them dominate your actions. Take a moment before reacting. Count to 10, breathe deeply, and remind yourself that raising your voice won't get you what you want. It may feel powerful in the moment, but the long-term effects usually lead to regret and hurt feelings. In contrast, calm words pave the way for real understanding. Imagine a scenario where, instead of shouting, you take a step back and choose your words wisely. The person you're speaking with will be more likely to hear your perspective and respond thoughtfully rather than defensively. And in the end, isn't that what we're all looking for? To be heard and understood. Raising your voice may make noise, but calm words carry the weight of wisdom. That's how you evolve, by handling your frustrations in a way that brings peace rather than chaos. It's not about repressing your anger, but learning how to express it constructively. The next time you feel your voice rising, remind yourself that calm is not only more powerful but more effective. This practice will help you evolve, not just in how you handle conflict, but in your overall communication skills. Mastering your emotions is a journey, but each step forward lightens the emotional load you carry. It's all too easy to slip into negative talk about others. Whether it's gossiping about a coworker, venting about a friend, or criticizing someone's choices, we often do it without thinking twice. But here's the truth. Speaking negatively about others adds unnecessary weight to your life. The energy spent on tearing someone down could be used to build yourself up instead. Not only does it drain you emotionally, but it also impacts how others see you. After all, people tend to judge you by the way you speak about others. When you focus on the flaws or mistakes of others, you distract yourself from your own growth. This kind of talk creates a cycle of negativity that weighs you down. Every time you choose to speak negatively, you're adding another burden to your own emotional load. Imagine how much lighter you would feel if you chose empathy over judgment. When you see someone make a mistake or behave in a way that irritates you, take a moment to consider what they might be going through. Compassion is a far more powerful tool than criticism. Negative talk often comes from a place of insecurity or frustration with our own lives. Instead of focusing on someone else's shortcomings, ask yourself, what can I do to improve my own situation? Redirecting that energy inward toward your own growth will help you evolve far more than focusing on others' faults. It's a choice. Carry the weight of negative words, or let it go and focus on becoming the best version of yourself. It's also worth considering how your words affect your relationships. If you're constantly speaking negatively about others, it might make those around you wonder if you'll speak the same way about them. This can create a sense of mistrust or distance. But when you make a habit of speaking positively or simply refraining from negative talk, you build stronger, more trusting relationships. People appreciate those who uplift rather than criticize. The next time you find yourself tempted to speak negatively about someone, pause and think. Is this helping me grow, or is it just adding unnecessary weight to my life? The answer is almost always the latter. Choose to evolve by practicing empathy, understanding, and, when necessary, silence. Your words have power. Use them wisely. We've all fallen into the trap of comparing ourselves to others. It's almost second nature in a world where everyone's achievements, looks, and lives are on display, especially through social media. But here's the reality. Constant comparison is one of the heaviest burdens you can carry. The more you compare your life to others, the more you weigh yourself down with feelings of inadequacy and frustration. What you may not realize is that while you're busy comparing yourself to others, you're neglecting the most important comparison of all. Comparing who you are today with who you were yesterday. The truth is, comparison steals your joy. It shifts your focus away from your own unique journey and onto someone else's path, which may not even align with your goals or values. Every time you look at someone else's life and feel like you're falling short, you're carrying an emotional weight that isn't yours to bear. And often, what we see on the surface doesn't tell the full story. That seemingly perfect life you're comparing yourself to could be filled with struggles you know nothing about. Instead of letting those comparisons hold you back, focus on your own growth. Think about it. Everyone's journey is different. Some people may appear to succeed faster, but that doesn't mean you're behind. You're simply on your own path, with your own timing. Comparing yourself to others only distracts you from the work you need to do to evolve. When you focus on your own progress, no matter how small, you lighten the emotional load and allow yourself to grow at your own pace. Celebrate your achievements, however modest they may seem, because they're steps forward on your unique journey. Social media is one of the biggest culprits in fueling comparison. It's so easy to scroll through photos of people seemingly living their best lives, hitting milestones, or achieving things that make you feel left behind. But remember, social media is a curated highlight reel, not the full picture. Instead of comparing your behind the scenes with someone else's highlights, take a step back. Use that time to reflect on your own growth. What have you achieved recently? How can you focus on what truly matters to you rather than what others are doing? The key to overcoming the comparison trap is practicing gratitude. When you focus on what you have rather than what you lack, you shift your perspective. Gratitude allows you to see the value in your own journey without feeling the need to measure it against someone else's. It's not about being better than others. It's about being better than the person you were yesterday. Start each day by reminding yourself of the things you're grateful for. This simple practice can help lighten the emotional load and remind you that your path is valid, even if it looks different from someone else's. At its core, comparison is rooted in insecurity. When you're confident in who you are and what you're working toward, the need to compare fades away. So how do you build that confidence? Start by setting goals that align with your values, not with what you think you should be achieving based on what others are doing. When you're chasing goals that matter to you, the success of others becomes less relevant because you're focused on your own evolution. And that's where true growth happens, when you're invested in your journey, not theirs. So the next time you catch yourself comparing, ask, what am I really gaining from this? In most cases, comparison only drains you emotionally, making your own journey feel heavier. Let go of that burden. Focus on your growth, your evolution, and your unique path forward. Remember, your journey is yours alone, and it's worth celebrating every step of the way. Social media has become a huge part of our lives, connecting us with friends, family, and the world around us. But there's a fine line between staying connected and getting lost in the endless scroll. Excessive use of social media not only eats away at your time, but also at your peace of mind. It pulls you into a world of constant comparison, distractions, and superficial interactions, which can weigh you down emotionally. The more time you spend on social media, the less time you have for real, meaningful connections with yourself and others. When you're constantly plugged into social media, it's easy to lose sight of what really matters in life. The curated posts, the highlight reels, the polished images, all of it creates a distorted reality that can make you feel like you're not enough. But here's the truth. What you see on social media is only a small, edited version of someone's life. Comparing yourself to that is not only unfair, but also a surefire way to carry emotional burdens that don't belong to you. It's time to take control of how much space social media takes up in your life. Have you ever noticed how much lighter you feel after a break from social media? That's because you're no longer bombarded with images and updates that make you question your own life. Instead, you have space to focus on your real priorities. Your personal growth, your relationships, your goals. The constant barrage of information can create a sense of urgency, making you feel like you always have to keep up. But by setting boundaries on your social media use, you can reclaim your time and energy for things that truly matter. Setting limits on your social media consumption can have a profound effect on your well-being. Try designating specific times during the day for social media, rather than mindlessly scrolling throughout the day. You'll find that with less time online, you're able to focus more on your personal goals and the relationships that actually nourish you. It's about using social media intentionally, rather than letting it use you. When you reduce your screen time, you free up mental and emotional space for growth and connection in the real world. Think of all the time you spend on social media. Now, imagine if even a fraction of that time was spent on activities that promote your personal growth. Reading, learning a new skill, or investing in your relationships. The difference it could make in your life is immeasurable. Social media is designed to be addictive, to keep you scrolling for hours, but it's up to you to break that cycle. By limiting your use, you're not only freeing up time, but also lightening the emotional load that comes with constant comparison and distraction. Another important aspect to consider is how social media affects your self-worth. It's easy to fall into the trap of seeking validation through likes, comments, and followers. But these are fleeting and superficial measures of your worth. Real validation comes from within, knowing your value without needing others to confirm it. By stepping away from social media, you give yourself the opportunity to reconnect with who you truly are, without the influence of others' opinions or the pressure to constantly present a polished version of yourself. The key to reducing social media's hold on you is to be mindful of your usage. Are you reaching for your phone out of habit, boredom, or anxiety? Start paying attention to when and why you use social media. This awareness can help you make more intentional choices about how you spend your time. By creating a healthier relationship with social media, you'll find that you feel lighter, more focused, and more at peace with your life. It's about evolving beyond the constant need for digital distraction and reconnecting with what truly matters. Seeking external validation is something most people do, often without realizing it. Whether it's through likes on social media, compliments from peers, or recognition at work, we all crave approval from others to some extent. But here's the thing. Constantly seeking validation from external sources can weigh you down. It's like carrying around a need for permission to be yourself. The more you rely on others to confirm your worth, the more distant you become from your true self. True growth comes from within, not from the approval of others. When you constantly look outside yourself for validation, you give away your power. You allow others to dictate your self-worth, and that's a heavy burden to carry. Imagine how much lighter you'd feel if you didn't need anyone else to confirm your value. It's time to shift that focus inward and start recognizing your worth on your own terms. You don't need to wait for someone else's approval to know that you're enough. This kind of confidence allows you to evolve and grow, free from the weight of external expectations. The truth is, external validation is fleeting. The compliments, the likes, the recognition, they feel good in the moment, but they don't last. And when you rely on those moments for your sense of self, you're constantly chasing something that's always just out of reach. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much validation you receive, it's never enough to sustain you. But when you cultivate self-validation, you create a solid foundation that doesn't crumble when others don't give you the approval you're looking for. Building self-validation starts with knowing your own values and living in alignment with them. When you know who you are and what you stand for, external opinions matter less. It's not about being immune to praise or criticism, but rather about not letting those things define you. Instead of seeking approval from others, focus on doing things that make you proud of yourself. This internal shift lightens the emotional load and helps you evolve into a person who is confident in their worth, regardless of what others think. It's also important to recognize that the search for external validation often stems from insecurity. When you don't fully believe in yourself, you seek out others to fill that gap. But no amount of external praise can make up for a lack of self-confidence. The real work begins when you start validating yourself, acknowledging your own achievements, and finding pride in who you are. It's about taking ownership of your growth and evolving without needing anyone else's approval. A good practice to develop self-validation is to reflect on your daily actions and ask yourself, did I do my best today? If the answer is yes, then that's all the validation you need. Over time, this practice will help you detach from the need for constant external praise. It's about learning to be proud of yourself without waiting for others to recognize it. This doesn't mean you won't appreciate compliments or recognition when they come, but you won't rely on them to feel good about yourself. Another way to break free from the need for external validation is to set goals that align with your values, not with what others expect of you. When you're working towards something that truly matters to you, the opinions of others become less significant. You're no longer chasing validation. You're chasing growth and fulfillment. This shift in focus allows you to evolve with less emotional baggage and more clarity about what truly matters in your life. Ultimately, the journey to self-validation is about reclaiming your power. It's about recognizing that you are enough, just as you are, without needing anyone else to tell you so. When you stop seeking external validation, you lighten the load you carry and open yourself up to real growth. And as you evolve, you'll find that the only approval you need is your own. Perfectionism is a tricky thing. On the surface, it can seem like a positive trait. Striving for excellence, pushing yourself to do better, aiming to meet the highest standards. But in reality, perfectionism can become a heavy burden that holds you back rather than pushing you forward. The constant pressure to be flawless can weigh you down, making even small tasks feel overwhelming. Instead of growing and evolving, you end up stuck, afraid to make mistakes, and that fear can prevent you from making progress at all. The thing about perfectionism is that it creates unrealistic expectations, not just for yourself but often for others too. You set the bar so high that it's almost impossible to reach, and when you inevitably fall short, the disappointment feels crushing. But here's the truth. Perfection is an illusion. It's something we chase but never truly attain because there will always be something that could be better. And that's okay. Growth happens when we embrace our imperfections, not when we strive to eliminate them. Letting go of perfectionism doesn't mean you stop caring about doing well. It means you recognize that progress is more important than perfection. It's about focusing on the journey rather than obsessing over the destination. When you allow yourself to make mistakes, you give yourself room to learn and grow. After all, evolution doesn't happen in a straight line. It's a process of trial and error, of failing forward. The pressure to be perfect only slows you down by adding unnecessary weight to your efforts. Perfectionism often leads to procrastination. You delay starting a project or making a decision because you're afraid you won't get it exactly right. But the pursuit of perfection can keep you stuck in a cycle of inaction. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect plan, take action now. You'll find that progress, no matter how small, feels lighter and more rewarding than the weight of waiting for everything to be flawless. Another downside of perfectionism is that it can lead to burnout. The constant drive to be perfect in every area of life, work, relationships, personal goals, can be exhausting. It's like trying to carry too much all at once. Eventually, something will slip through the cracks, and that's when the frustration sets in. But when you accept that it's okay to do your best, rather than trying to be perfect, you free yourself from that pressure. You'll find that you can achieve more and feel less weighed down by the unrealistic expectations you once held. The key to overcoming perfectionism is practicing self-compassion. Be kind to yourself when things don't go as planned. Instead of criticizing yourself for not being perfect, celebrate the effort you put in and the lessons you learned along the way. This shift in mindset allows you to grow without the burden of constantly judging yourself. Remember, perfection isn't the goal. Progress and growth are. One practical way to release the grip of perfectionism is to set more realistic, achievable goals. Instead of aiming for perfection, aim for improvement. Break your goals down into smaller, more manageable steps, and celebrate each step along the way. This approach makes the journey feel lighter and more rewarding, rather than overwhelming. It's about evolving in a way that feels sustainable and achievable, rather than exhausting yourself in the pursuit of impossible standards. Finally, remember that mistakes are a natural part of growth. No one evolves without stumbling along the way. It's in those moments of imperfection that we learn the most about ourselves and how to improve. So, embrace your flaws, your missteps, and your imperfections. They are all part of the process of becoming a better version of yourself. Let go of the need to be perfect, and watch how much lighter you feel as you grow. Unrealistic expectations can feel like invisible weights, dragging you down and holding you back from truly enjoying your life. Whether it's expecting too much of yourself, others, or even life in general, these unattainable standards can cause frustration, disappointment, and stress. The truth is, when you set the bar too high, you're setting yourself up for failure. It's like carrying a load that's far too heavy, and over time, it wears you down. The key to lightening this emotional load is recognizing when your expectations are unrealistic and adjusting them to align with reality. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that we should aim for the stars in every aspect of life. Our careers, relationships, personal growth. While it's great to have high standards, there's a fine line between ambition and expecting too much. Unrealistic expectations often stem from perfectionism or from comparing ourselves to others, but they end up leaving us feeling unfulfilled. Instead of growing and evolving, we become stuck in a cycle of disappointment when reality doesn't match up with the ideal vision in our heads. Think about the expectations you place on yourself. Are you constantly pushing yourself to achieve more, be more, do more, without giving yourself credit for the progress you've already made? This kind of pressure can prevent you from appreciating your own growth. Instead of focusing on what you haven't achieved, take a step back and recognize the steps you've already taken. Adjusting your expectations to be more realistic doesn't mean lowering your standards. It means being kinder to yourself and acknowledging the reality of your situation. Unrealistic expectations can also impact your relationships. When you expect too much from others, whether it's from a partner, friend, or family member, you set them up for failure as well. No one is perfect, and expecting others to always meet your ideals is a recipe for frustration. Relationships thrive when there's room for imperfection, when both parties accept each other's flaws. Letting go of unrealistic expectations in your relationships allows you to grow together rather than holding each other back with impossible standards. Another area where unrealistic expectations can weigh you down is in your goals. It's easy to set lofty goals that sound great on paper but are nearly impossible to achieve in the time frame or manner you imagined. When you constantly fall short of these goals, it can feel like you're failing. But in reality, the problem isn't you, it's the expectations you've set. Instead of aiming for perfection, try setting more achievable goals that allow for flexibility and growth. Progress is far more valuable than perfection. Recognizing when your expectations are unrealistic is the first step in lightening your load. Ask yourself, are my expectations aligned with my current reality? Am I being fair to myself and others? If the answer is no, it's time to adjust. Letting go of these high expectations doesn't mean settling. It means evolving in a way that allows for real progress. When you release the need for everything to be perfect or ideal, You open yourself up to the beauty of what is rather than constantly focusing on what should be. In life, things don't always go as planned. Unrealistic expectations often prevent us from adapting to change, making it harder to move forward when things don't turn out the way we imagined. By adjusting your expectations to be more realistic, you allow yourself the flexibility to evolve with life's inevitable ups and downs. It's about learning to flow with life rather than resisting it. This shift can lighten your emotional burden and allow you to enjoy the journey, even when it takes unexpected turns. Ultimately, letting go of unrealistic expectations is about freeing yourself from unnecessary pressure. It's about understanding that life isn't about being perfect. It's about growing, learning, and evolving. When you adjust your expectations to match reality, you'll find that the journey becomes lighter and more enjoyable. Instead of feeling weighed down by what you think should happen, you can focus on what's actually unfolding in front of you, and that's where real growth happens. Gossip is one of those habits that can seem harmless at first. It often starts as a casual conversation, just sharing a piece of information or venting about someone's behavior. But here's the truth. Gossip is a heavy burden, both for the one spreading it and the one listening to it. It creates negativity, distrust, and a toxic environment, whether it's at work, in social circles, or even within families. By engaging in gossip, you're not only adding unnecessary weight to your life, but also holding back your own growth. When you engage in gossip, you're feeding into a cycle of judgment and negativity. It might feel satisfying in the moment to share someone else's flaws or mistakes, but in the long run, it weighs you down emotionally. Gossip doesn't just affect the person being talked about, it also affects you. It creates a habit of focusing on the negative, and over time, that negativity seeps into your own mindset. Instead of growing and evolving, you end up carrying the emotional baggage of others' drama. Think about the relationships you value most. Trust and respect are the foundation of any strong connection, and gossip erodes both. When you gossip about others, it makes the people around you wonder if you'll speak the same way about them. This creates an atmosphere of suspicion and insecurity. But when you choose to avoid gossip, you build stronger, more trusting relationships. People will see you as someone who values integrity and respects others' privacy, which ultimately lightens the emotional load on everyone involved. It's important to recognize the difference between venting and gossiping. Venting is when you express your feelings about a situation to release stress, often with the intention of finding a solution. Gossip, on the other hand, is when you share personal details about someone else's life without their knowledge or consent, often for entertainment or judgment. By avoiding gossip, you allow yourself to focus on solutions rather than perpetuating problems. This shift helps you evolve into a person who lifts others up instead of dragging them down. Avoiding gossip doesn't mean you have to be silent when faced with injustice or wrongdoing. There's a difference between standing up for what's right and spreading unnecessary negativity. If someone's actions need to be addressed, do it directly and respectfully with the person involved, rather than speaking behind their back. This approach not only fosters personal growth, but also encourages healthier, more productive relationships with those around you. Breaking the habit of gossip can be challenging, especially if it's something you've done for a long time or if the people around you are heavily engaged in it. But by consciously choosing to avoid gossip, you create a more positive and respectful environment. The next time someone tries to pull you into a conversation that feels like gossip, pause and ask yourself, is this helping anyone? Is it adding value to my life? If the answer is no, it's time to step away from the conversation. One way to avoid gossip is to redirect conversations to more positive or neutral topics. If someone starts gossiping, you can steer the conversation towards something constructive, like shared interests or plans for the future. Not only does this help you avoid the negativity of gossip, but it also shows others that you're someone who focuses on solutions rather than problems. Over time, this mindset shift will help you build deeper, more meaningful connections with those around you. At its core, avoiding gossip is about choosing to live with integrity. It's about recognizing that everyone has their own struggles, and speaking negatively about them doesn't serve anyone. When you make the conscious decision to stop gossiping, you lighten your emotional load and allow yourself to focus on your own growth. Instead of carrying the weight of others' drama, you free yourself to evolve into the best version of yourself. Numbers often reveal more than we realize. Whether in finances, habits, or even personal growth, paying attention to patterns can provide powerful insights into how we're living our lives. Numbers don't lie, and they can offer a clear, objective perspective on where we're excelling and where we may need to improve. But here's the thing. We often overlook the power of these insights because they're buried in the everyday routines. By learning to analyze and interpret the numbers in our lives, we can lighten our burdens and evolve with greater clarity. Take finances, for example. Many people avoid looking at their bank statements or budgeting because it feels overwhelming or even depressing. But understanding your financial numbers, knowing where your money is going, how much you're saving, and what your debts are, gives you control over your financial future. It's not about being perfect with money. It's about recognizing patterns and making adjustments where necessary. Once you face those numbers, you free yourself from the burden of uncertainty and can begin to take actionable steps toward financial growth. The same goes for time management. Have you ever tracked how you spend your time throughout the day? You might be surprised by how much time slips through the cracks, spent on distractions or unproductive activities. By looking at the numbers, whether it's how much time you spend on social media, watching TV, or working on your goals, you gain valuable insight into how to make better use of your time. This kind of self-awareness allows you to evolve, shedding the weight of wasted hours and focusing on what truly matters. Numbers also play a significant role in health and fitness. Whether it's the number of steps you take in a day, the calories you consume, or the hours of sleep you get, these numbers can provide a roadmap to improving your well-being. By paying attention to these metrics, you can identify patterns that may be holding you back from achieving your health goals. Maybe you're not getting enough sleep, or perhaps you're not as active as you thought. When you analyze these numbers, you empower yourself to make informed changes that will help you grow both physically and mentally. But it's not just about the numbers you track, it's also about understanding the deeper insights they reveal. For instance, if you notice that you're consistently spending more than you earn, that's not just a financial issue. It could be a sign of stress or emotional spending. Similarly, if you find that you're constantly running out of time for the things that matter most, it might indicate that your priorities need realignment. These insights, based on the numbers, allow you to evolve in meaningful ways, addressing not just the surface issues but the underlying patterns as well. Another area where numbers provide valuable insights is in personal growth. By tracking your progress, whether it's through journaling, setting measurable goals, or even tracking habits, you can see how far you've come. Numbers don't just tell you where you're falling short. They also highlight your achievements. Celebrating these small wins, backed by data, can help motivate you to keep moving forward. When you see your progress in tangible numbers, the weight of self-doubt and uncertainty begins to lift, allowing you to evolve with confidence. However, it's important not to become overly obsessed with the numbers. While they can offer valuable insights, they shouldn't dictate your entire life. The goal is to use numbers as a tool for self-awareness and growth, not as a measure of your worth. It's about finding balance, using the numbers to guide you without letting them become a source of stress. This balance allows you to grow in a way that feels sustainable and fulfilling, rather than burdensome. Ultimately, numbers are like a mirror. They reflect the reality of where you are, but they also show you where you can go. By paying attention to the patterns that numbers reveal, you gain the insight needed to evolve, shed unnecessary burdens, and focus on what truly matters. Whether it's finances, time, health, or personal growth, the numbers are there to guide you, if you're willing to look. We often place expectations on ourselves and others based on numbers, whether it's the number in our bank account, our age, or the milestones we think we should have hit by now. These expectations can be incredibly heavy, making us feel like we're falling behind or not living up to our potential. But here's the truth. Numbers don't define your worth, and setting expectations based solely on them can lead to disappointment and frustration. The key is to shift your focus from numbers to growth, how you're evolving as a person, rather than what specific targets you've hit. Take age, for instance. Many people feel pressure to achieve certain things by a certain age, buying a house, getting married, reaching a particular career level. But these are just arbitrary benchmarks that society places on us. The reality is that everyone's journey is different, and there's no right timeline for success. By releasing the expectations tied to numbers like age, you allow yourself to grow at your own pace, focusing on what truly matters to you rather than what's expected. Financial numbers are another area where expectations can weigh heavily. It's easy to look at your bank balance and feel like you're not where you should be. But instead of letting that number define your success, focus on your progress. Are you making smarter financial decisions than you were a year ago? Are you learning to manage your money better? These are the real markers of growth, not the arbitrary figures we often get hung up on. Similarly, when it comes to fitness or health goals, the numbers on the scale or your fitness tracker can become an obsession. But these numbers don't tell the whole story. Your overall well-being is far more important than hitting a specific number. Focus on how you feel. Are you stronger, healthier, more energized? By shifting your focus from the numbers to your overall growth, you free yourself from the burden of unrealistic expectations and allow yourself to evolve naturally. You've learned about the 11 fardos that silently weigh you down, and now the real question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? It's one thing to recognize these burdens, but the true power lies in letting them go. Ask yourself, are you ready to live a life where you evolve without the unnecessary weight of perfectionism, comparison, or the search for validation? Change doesn't happen overnight, but with each small step, you free yourself from the heavy loads that have been holding you back. So, here's the challenge. Take one burden from this list and commit to releasing it today. Don't wait for the perfect moment or someone's approval. Start now in silence and watch how much lighter your life becomes. Are you ready to let go and grow? If you found this video helpful, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss out on more insights like these. Your journey to a lighter, more peaceful life is just beginning. Let's continue this evolution together.